Hi everyone, welcome to the Career Sprints YouTube channel. My name is Rohit, and in this video I'm going to take you through everything you need to know about filling out the PMP exam application. Since the PMP exam application process can be fairly tricky, I have ensured that I cover as much as I can about the application process, and I've also shown examples of how to fill the application. In addition to the examples, I've also ensured that I cover how to pass a PMP application audit and talked about the best practices while filling out the application. This video is a recording of our How to Fill Your PMP Application webinar that we conduct from time to time. Finally, I've also added timestamps to the video so that you can skip over to the most important sections. However, if you want a comprehensive understanding of how to fill your application, please do watch the entire video. So without wasting any more time, let's get started. All right. So let's quickly talk about the PMP. I'm sure like if you are coming to this class, you probably have done, some research about what the PMP is and you know what it is. So the PMP actually stands for Project Management Professional. It is a gold standard certification in the field of project management. It is a certification which requires you to, really demonstrate your understanding of project management, and it has a huge popularity all over the world. So there are more than 1 million PMPs in the world, and every day if you go to LinkedIn or if you just just go online, you would see so many people who are clearing the PMP certification every single day. So over the years, the PMP certification has only gotten more and more popular, and definitely the PMP certification has become a differentiating factor when you're looking for a promotion or you're applying for a job, or even if you want to enhance your knowledge and get a more in-depth understanding of the different tasks and activities and the ways project management is done. The PMP certification is a good certification to have. The good thing about the PMP certification is that you can keep renewing it, and you don't really have to do the certification every couple of years, as long as you keep renewing your certification within the time frame. So having said that, it's a no-brainer. Anyone who is in the technical field and looking to move to management, or anyone who's looking to do work in the area of project management and wants a differentiating factor on their resume, PMP certification would be a great addition. So the eligibility criteria for the PMP is fairly straightforward. So, generally for anyone to appear for the PMP, you need to have some project management experience in addition to some education, right? So, there are basically, two ways where you can become eligible for the PMP certification exam. Number one is, let's say you have a bachelor's degree, right? So you have like a 4-year degree. If you have a bachelor's degree, and especially if that bachelor's degree was a 4-year degree, then, you just need 36 months of project management experience to showcase. So, PMI has mandated that in addition, to the work experience, you also need to go through some project management training. So whether it's a classroom course that you take, or or an online class that you take, or a self-paced learning course that you take, it doesn't really matter, as long as you get the 35 hours of project management education along with the experience, you're good to go, right? And then in addition to, that criteria, if you don't have the 4 years of experience, let's say you just finish your school and you started working, or you just have an associate's degree, right, or a high school diploma, in that case, you need to have 16 months of project management experience, which translates to roughly 5 years of experience that you need to have. And in addition to that, you need the 35 hours of training as well. So the 35 hours of training is mandatory in either case, but depending upon how much education you've been able to acquire, you need to have probably more or less work experience. Okay. Now, if you already have a CAPM, so I know that there are some people who choose to do the CAPM as well. We actually get a lot of people who don't have work experience or just have general work experience and not project management work experience, and they land up doing the CAPM. So if you are a CAPM holder, right, you don't need to get the 35 hours of classroom or project management education, because you've already gotten that. When you prepared for your CAPM, you probably already got that 35 hours of education, but you do need to show your experience. So if you got a CAPM a couple of years back, and now you're considering upgrading to a PMP, you still need to show that you have the required amount of work experience. The education is not necessary, but the experience is necessary. So you should work towards getting your work experience. Show you an example of how you can fill the PMP application form. But before that, I just want to give you some considerations in terms of what are the things you need to keep in mind when you are trying to fill out the PMP application form. So first of all, whatever situation or when you're applying for the PMP, one of the first things to consider is that the experience does not need to necessarily be any paid work, right? So it could be work that you have done even without charging the company or the customer anything, right? So it can be unpaid work as long as it has involved you doing some kind of project management work. It is going to count towards your work experience. The second thing is that where it says school projects or planning for personal events do not qualify. So any kind of pet project that you've done, or any kind of personal events that you've planned, obviously that would not qualify towards proper project management experience. You normally need to do this in a company, in like a professional setup, or as part of a larger community as well. So it has to be a part of some sort of organization that you've been a part of, right? So those are the two things that I wanted to get out of the way, so that you have an understanding of what really counts as experience. And all experience must have been accumulated within the last 8 years. So this is very, very important. So currently we are in the beginning of 2022, so you need to go back 8 years from the current date, and you need to see whether you've acquired the 5 years or the 3 years of work experience within the last 8 years. So any experience that you've acquired prior to the 8 years, that would not really count. The experience that would count is the ones that you've acquired within the last 8 years. Okay. Now, once you start your application, you have 90 days to complete the application form, right? So basically, the application needs to be filled out in an online setup. And once you fill out the application, you will have 90 days to to complete the application and to submit it. And PMI will give their decision on your application, whether it's approved or it's rejected, within 5 business days. Next, once your application is approved, then you need to take the exam within 1 year. And within that 1 year, you're allowed to attempt the exam 3 times. So, if you fail the first time, you're given 2 more attempts to try and clear the exam within that 1 year period. And then every 3 years, so for example, let's say you got your PMP certification in 2019. Like, for example, one of my students got their PMP certification in July of 2019. Now, their renewal is coming up in July of 2022. So within 3 years, you need to accumulate something known as professional development units, or PDUs, to maintain your application. So that information is also provided in the handbook. I'm not going to cover that in a lot of depth right now, but just know that every 3 years you would need to basically pay a renewal fee, and you need to accumulate the PDUs to maintain your PMP certification. Okay, so basically, when you get into the PMI portal, right? So, you go to pmi.org, and, you'll have to first create an account with PMI. It's a very, very simple process. You will basically have a button which will ask you to register. Once you go and register, this is the page you will land on. And, like, for example, that's my profile. Now, what I would need to do is that I would basically go to my dashboard. Right. So I come to my dashboard and, basically my application expired because this is a dummy account that I have, but, I'm just going to reopen the application. So like I said, if you don't complete your application within 90 days, then, it'll expire and then you need to reopen your application. So I'm just going to reopen my application. Okay. And I can start filling it out. So I'm just going to quickly, fill out, I'm just going to walk you through it. So basically I need to just enter my highest level of education. So for example, I have a master's degree, but, whatever degree you have, like if you have a high school diploma or an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree, doctorate, master's degree, you just need to enter that information here. So, I'm just going to fill it out from my perspective. So I have a master's degree, and which is the year in which I finished, or basically the years in which I did my master's degree. So I did my degree from 2007 to 2009. So you just enter your years, attended. You just enter your country in which you did it. So, for example, I did it from India. So, I'm going to enter India, but, whatever country you're living in, wherever you got your education from, you enter that country. And then you need to enter the name of your institute. So let's say, you did it from, whatever university, you enter the name of the university. So let's say I'm just going to, so let's say I did it from Harrisburg University of Science and Technology. So sometimes it may come up, like for example, if the name of your institution is there, sometimes it may not come up, right? So for example, let's say if I take a name like, like I did it from a college in India, which, probably is not going to be here. So I would say ICFA University, and then I need to select my field of study. So let's say I did business administration. So I'm going to just select that and I'm going to save my education. Okay. Then, I need to talk about my course title. So this is basically, the professional qualification that you got, like the project management education that you got, or the PMP training that you took. So let's say you did the PMP exam prep course. So you just need to enter the name of the, of the course, and the name should be exactly the name that is provided by your training company or your training institute. So you enter the course title. So you can say PMP exam prep course, and you enter the provider's name. So let's say you did it with us. So you just write there careersprints.com, and you need to write the dates on which you did it. So whether you did a classroom course or you did an e-learning course, the dates will probably are going to differ. So let's say you did a classroom course of 5 days. So let's say you did the classroom course from January of 2022 to, let's say, February of 2022. So, you just write that information there. And here you can just enter the number 35 because you need a bare minimum of 35 qualifying hours, and you can save your education as well. So, just to reiterate, this is like if you see, it says enter the professional education courses related to this certification, starting with the most recent. So, you just enter the information and you save it. So once you've done this, if you see, there'll be a green tick. So it'll show you the green tick where it'll show you the secondary degree or whatever degree that you have. It'll show you the qualifying hours of work experience, the education that you acquired. And then the next section is the section of experience. Now, this is where, things get a little more complicated. And, that is what, you should really understand well. So I'm just going to quickly, open the handbook. So before I actually fill out the information here, I just want to quickly open the handbook and, just help you understand how you need to fill out this particular section. So let's just go to the handbook. All right. So this is the more important section, when you are filling out your PMP application, right? So one of the first things, if you remember, I said is that your experience that you have accumulated should have been accumulated within the last 8 years, right? So anything before that will not count towards your work experience. Now, the main thing is this, that, you should not have like when you're filling out the application, for example, you may have worked on 2 projects or on 3 projects in the last 8 years, right? Or maybe even more projects than that. And, many times when we are working on projects, we are working on projects in parallel, right? So, for example, we may have done 2 projects simultaneously at the same time. Now, what PMI says is that you cannot report both these projects that you've done simultaneously. You need to basically report the way you're going to report your projects is that you cannot report any overlapping experience. So, for example, if you see the example here, you would see that project 1 in this diagram or in this picture, that was done from Jan to around April, right? And then project 2 started from February and it was done till the month of June. So let's say you decide to report project 1 as part of your experience. So you're going to report project 1 from Jan to April, and then project 2 can only start from May, because until April you have done project number 1. So you cannot report project 2 from February or even from any other month. You have to report it after you finished project 1. So basically for project 2, you will only be able to report May and June. So if you combine the total amount of time that you spent doing project 1 and project 2, you have accumulated a total work experience of only 6 months. Right. So, and then, obviously project 3 was done from July till November. So that's, another 5 months. And then, you can just add that to the experience, of project 1 and project 2. So that's the way you're supposed to look at, overlapping projects. So the basic idea is that, no 2 projects that have been done simultaneously can both of them be reported. You can only report 1 project. And, after that, after you finish that 1 project, then you can, report the other project, and then the other project can count towards your work experience. So that is the basic idea here in terms of recording your project experience. Okay, now we will basically look at an example of, how you're going to fill out this information. So, when we talk about, filling out this information, you would see that there are a couple of sections here. So you have the project title, you have the organization, you have the job title, you have the functional reporting area, so I'm going to walk you through each of these different sections. And, I'm going to help you, understand how you can fill out the application. The experience section of the application. So when we talk about the project title is something that, normally, projects may or may not have a title. So, you may have worked on a project, but you may not be the sponsor of the project, or, you may not be really, aware of what is the title of the project. So, as long as you have a basic understanding of what the project was delivering and what the project was trying to accomplish, you can just write some project title. And I'm going to show you an example of a, of a project title. So, we have actually written a blog on that as well, on how to fill out your application. And I'm going to share that blog with you here. Okay, so here, there is an example. Basically, this blog is very comprehensive in terms of, it walks you through all the sections and how you can fill it out, and so on and so forth with pictures. So, these are the sections that you need to fill out, but let's look at an example here. So I'm just going to look at, there are 2 examples that I've given. So I'm just going to look at, this second example where it says, here's another example of a PMP application who worked on a predictive project, right? So this is a predictive project, basically a traditional waterfall project, and we are going to look at an example of that. So, so the first thing is that, you need to write a project title, right? So when it comes to project title, this project was about, you see, it would say design, deploy and deliver a learning management system across various internal organizational departments. So, my project title could be something as simple as develop and deploy a learning management system, LMS, within, to various departments within the organization. Or you can just shorten it and you can just say, like, because it's the project title, you don't want to keep it too lengthy. You can just say develop and deploy a learning management system within the organization. So, you can just keep it short. And then you write the name of the organization. So let's say, whatever is the company that you worked with. So no, I'm not going to name a company, but I'm just going to say, let's say ABC Limited. So whatever company you work with, you write that. And then you have to write your job title. Now, when it comes to writing your job title, you don't have to necessarily write that you are a project manager. You don't have to necessarily write that. You can just write your actual job title. So, for example, your job title could be a marketing manager, or your job title could be, an operations manager. Or, maybe if you're in healthcare, you could have, some other type of job title. So whatever is your job title, you can write that. You would definitely see that there are, people on the internet that actually tell you that, your job title should be like project manager, or, project sponsor, or, like a project coordinator. But I would say just write your actual job title, like whatever, whatever title has been given to you by your company, you can write that. And the reason for that is because not everyone has the title of a project manager. If you have a title of a project manager, fair enough. You can go and write that as well. That you have the title of a project manager. But if you don't have that job title, don't write that job title. Just write your actual job title. Okay. And I'll come to the next section where, you need to, how you can write, what is the role that you played on the project. I'm going to talk about that as well. But for now, let's just move on and talk about the functional reporting area. So, in the functional reporting area, you may have worked in maybe customer service, finance, human resource. So this is basically the department that you worked in. So let's say I worked in marketing. So I'm just going to write there, my functional reporting area was marketing. And, what was the primary focus of the organization? So primary focus basically means the organization's industry. So whether you were in healthcare, you were in automotive, you were in construction, you were in, the media industry. So let's say I was in information technology. So I would write, information technology. Then I have to choose the type of project that I did. So whether I did a traditional project, whether it was an agile project, or it was a hybrid project. Now, a hybrid project basically means that it's a combination of some traditional and some agile techniques. So they combined both these different frameworks and they carried out the project. So the project that I did was a waterfall project. So I'm just going to choose waterfall here. And then I need to choose my project team size. So they give you various options. So it's like 1 to 4, 5 to 9, 10 to 14. So whatever was your project size. So for example, my project size was 10 to 14. So I'm going to write there 10 to 14. Okay. And they also have another, category called classified. So if your project was, let's say, something that you cannot share, maybe you did a project in the defense sector, or if you're not comfortable sharing that information, or maybe you're bound by, the company clause that you cannot share that information, you write as, you just choose classified. So I'm just going to choose 10 to 14 here. And then, same with project budget, they give you various options and they give you the option of classified. So, my project was up to just $1 million. It was a couple of $100. So I'm just going to write up to 1 million. And then, you can basically choose your project date. So let's say I did the project from January of 2021 till, let's say, August of 2021. So you can either choose that, because if your project finished in August, then you need to choose the date or the month in which it finished. If it did not finish in August, then you can just select in progress, and it will just calculate the number of months that you have accumulated. And then after that, you need to go on and write your project description. So it is very important to read what they ask you, what they expect you to write in this area, in this section. So it says provide a high level description that summarizes your experience and includes the project objective, the project outcome, your role on the project, your responsibilities, and deliverables. And a typical response is anywhere between 200 to 500 words. So, a couple of basic things that I would recommend is, first of all, try to stick to the word limit. If you go to, let's say, 520 words or 540 words, maybe it's okay. But, try to keep it between that word limit of 200 to 500. I would not say like write a very short description, but ensure that, you are in the range of, let's say, 450 to 500 words. Try to summarize your experience in that many words. So basically, the way you need to write this is simple. So you just go here and, I have written a sample project description here. So you write the project objective. So for example, my project objective was design, deploy, and deliver a learning management system. So I'm just going to take that and I'm going to write that here. So that was my project objective. Maybe if you need more, like if you want to ensure that you don't use too many words, then what you do is that you can just say the word objective here. Instead of saying project objective, it's understood that you're talking about the project objective. Then the next thing you can write is the project outcome. So for example, my project outcome was provide a more user-centric and engaging experience. So you can just write the project outcome here. For now, I'm just copying and pasting, but that's the way you got to write it. So the objective is what the company was trying to accomplish, right? What was the overall end goal of the organization? And, the outcome is what benefit, is the deliverable going to deliver. So for example, if my project was about a learning management system, how did the learning management system, or how is the learning management system going to help the organization or the employees of the organization? That is the meaning of outcome here. So remember, the word outcome is connected to the benefit of the project, right? Created. Then the next thing you document is your role on the project. So you can come here and you can say role on the project. So, you can just say, I've written something lengthy, but you can just say role on the project as project manager. So you can just, say project manager or project coordinator. Try to keep it to words which are more commonly used, like project manager, project coordinator, project lead. Don't write things like project consultant. Don't write things like project consultant or project advisor. Basically, you want to give the impression that you were involved in leading and directing the project. That is the impression that you want to give. So let's say, we're going to stick to the word project manager here to keep things simple. And now that we are talking about role, you would notice that there was a job title, that, we also entered. So let's say I was the marketing manager. Now, that is the actual title that is given to me by my company. But my role that I take on a project could be different from the job title that was given to me. So although I was a marketing manager, the role of a marketing manager is generally different from the role of a project manager, but I could have managed a marketing project. So for that marketing project, I actually took on the role of a project manager. So so whatever job title you have, that is different from the role that you're taking on. So when you say project manager, project coordinator, they are all roles that you're taking on. So that's a temporary role that you're taking on for a limited period of time, right? So write the role as a project manager or as a project coordinator, and the role can be different from your actual job title. And then let's talk about the responsibilities, right? So I'm just going to take all these and I'm just going to paste it here. Okay, so I just have, I think, 213 words in total, but you can have many more words. So I'm just going to break it down a little bit. Okay. So, when you're documenting your responsibilities, and this is where it gets a little tricky, because, you need to show that you have done project management work on the, on the project that you were appointed as a project manager. So when it comes to responsibilities, what you need to understand is that when you're writing the responsibilities, it has to be written in PMI language, right? So it is very important that you have a good understanding of the PMI process groups. So if you have ever, read anything about the PMP exam, or if you read about the processes in the PMP exam, you would know that there are a total of 5 processes in the PMP exam. There is initiating, there is planning, there is monitoring and controlling, there is executing, and there is closing a project, right? So and in each of these processes, different types of work is being done. So the work that you do in initiating is different from planning, from monitoring and controlling, from executing, and from closing. So if you have an understanding of what a project manager does, across, or in these different processes, then you will be able to write your responsibilities in a much, much better way, right? So I'm going to read out some of the bullet points, and I'm going to help you understand which bullet point will fall under, which process group, right? So let's first talk about initiating, right? So when I say initiating, initiating is pretty much the start of the project. This is where you are doing a feasibility study of the project. This is where you are, documenting, the business case of the project. This is where you are maybe crafting a charter for the project. So it is really the initial stages of your project. So so if you see, it's the first sentence says, created a business case to justify the investment in developing a learning management system for the organization. So the first thing that I did in initiating was I created a business case, right? And this is something that is normally done at the beginning of the project. So, that would go under initiating. Then it says created measurable success criteria for the project and a benefits measurement plan, identified vital project stakeholders, and documented their expectations in a stakeholder register. So this is also something that I would do in initiating in project initiation. So it is, so like I said, it is important to have an understanding of what you would do in initiating, what you would do in planning, and so on and so forth. Now, those were the 2 sentences in initiating. Then this is the sentence in planning. So under planning, what do you do? So in planning, you create a project management plan. You document all the subsidiary plans. So like you have a resource management plan under your project management plan, you have a scope plan, you have a cost plan, you have a schedule plan. You identify the some risks, or you document a risk management plan. So all the planning, work in terms of creating all your baselines is done in the planning process group. So if you look at this sentence, it says, determine the scope, the time, the cost, the quality, and the risks affecting the project, and created the project management plan with component plans. And then after you've created the plan, you are probably going to get approval from a senior stakeholder, like a project sponsor or like a project board. So, that will also fall under planning. So it goes on to say, got the plan formally approved by the project sponsor and held a kickoff meeting before project execution. So a kickoff meeting is also something that you do in in the process of planning. So that is planning. Next is execution. So once you have planned the project, the next step is to actually deliver whatever you have planned. So it is about creating the work packages, and delivering the deliverables of the project. So during execution, the project manager is going to delegate work packages. The project manager is going to evaluate team performance. The project manager may do some team building activities, to keep the team motivated. The project manager is going to basically carry out some tasks and activities related to risk mitigation or issue management. So if a risk has occurred, then the project manager needs to execute a response. If an issue has occurred, then the project manager needs to deal with that issue. So all the the heavy lifting of the project, the actual work of the project, happens during the execution phase. So this sentence would fall under execution. Right, and then it says provided regular project progress reports to sponsors and senior stakeholders and facilitated product approval meetings with reviewers and customer representatives. So this can also fall under executing of a project. So that's why it's important to have a good understanding of what you are actually going to do in each of the process groups. Then we come to monitoring and control. Right. So when we talk about monitoring and control, what are you doing? In monitoring and control, you're basically keeping a tab on how the project is doing. Right. So you are monitoring the risks that are there in the risk register. You're monitoring any issues that that can possibly have happened. So you're basically monitoring the project against its performance baselines. And if something goes haywire, or an issue occurs, then in that case you need to deal with that issue. So you are executing the change control process. For example, if a change is required in the project, then you are going to implement a change response to the issue that has happened. So it says continuously monitored the project against its performance baselines and managed the change control process in collaboration with teams and stakeholders. So this is something that you would do as part of monitoring and control. And then finally, we come to closing a project. So when it comes to closing a project, you're going to gain the final acceptance of the end product from the customer and the projects, and solicited feedback about the project quality and performance. So, when you're closing a project, what are you doing? So before you close the project, you need to first get an approval from the senior stakeholder or from your customer, right? Because you cannot close the project until you have final sign-off. So you're going to get a sign-off. Then, before you close, you want to ensure that any lessons that you've learned in the project, you're going to document that in a repository. So, maybe you are going to document that in your knowledge repository or in your knowledge base. So it says consolidate lessons into an organization knowledge base. And then all the project documents that you created, like the plans, the registers, or any other project document, you're going to archive that, right? For future reference or for future use, right? So you will archive project records and documents. So this is also closing a project. This is also closing a project. So, that's the way you are going to document your experience. I mean, you can write a lot more than what I have written, but, in a nutshell, this is the way you're going to write it. And then finally, it also says that you need to talk about the deliverable that you have created. So if you see, it says a description, high-level description, that includes the project objective, the outcome, your role, your responsibility. So what we've done so far is we've defined the objective, we've defined the outcome, we've talked about the role that we've taken on, we've talked about the responsibilities, and now we are going to talk about the deliverables. right? So the deliverables, for example, when we created the learning management system, obviously the deliverables were the learning management system. In addition to that, there was training on the learning management system, and there was associated documentation, with the learning management system. So you can just write this like a sentence. So you can say the deliverables of the project was this and this and this. So, when we talk about the deliverables, this is what I will recommend. Just write the major products that you created as part of the project. Don't talk about every work package that was done. For example, as part of the learning management system, I may have created an account management section. I may have created an admin section. I don't need to write that I had an admin section, I had an account management section. PMI does not want, don't be too specific. Actually, it is better to be more high level, because the problem is when you become too specific, it will confuse the reviewer who is reviewing your application. And, they may have more questions, or if they don't understand what you're writing, they may decide to reject your application. So keep it high level, right? Just talk about the major products or the major work that you did as part of your project. So that is the deliverable. So the deliverable, is basically the actual outputs or the products of the project. Okay, so that's, and then you save your experience. Now, if you see, when I saved my experience, what it did was that I had shown that I have worked from, okay, it doesn't show here, but basically, I've said that I started working in January 2021 and the project is still in progress. So it has calculated a total of 13 months. But I need to still, write more projects. So, I can just say add additional experience, and then I can write about the next project, and then I can save that, and so on and so forth. Let's talk about like if you get selected for an audit. Okay. Now, when we talk about PMI audits, what happens is some applications, it's just your bad luck, right? There is no science to this. PMI randomly selects applications and they will decide to audit the application, right? And it's not, I wouldn't really say it's bad luck. They just want to ensure that they, that you are able to prove what you've written in your application. So, 90% of the people don't get picked up for an audit, but 10% of the people do. So if you are one of those unlucky ones, you may get picked up for an audit. I actually got picked up for an audit when I did my PMP, and I have many years of project management work experience. Right. So I've also been teaching project management for a very long time. So even then, after submitting my application, I got picked up for an audit. And, I see, people with less experience not getting picked up for an audit, people with more experience getting picked up for an audit. So it's really random selection, right? The system just decides who to pick up for an audit. And generally what happens is, you will get to know that you've been picked up for an audit as soon as you submit your application. As soon as you submit your application, you will know that you have been picked up for an audit, because immediately after your submission, you will receive an email from PMI, which will say your application has been selected for an audit. So don't get worried. Audit is not a bad thing as long as you do everything right, and you have all the documentation in place. You should not be scared of having a PMI audit. And it's not very difficult. I'll be honest with you, it's not very difficult. Okay, but let's talk about what actually happens in the audit like that. Basically, when your application gets picked up for an audit, what happens is that you need to provide 3 documents, right? So you need to provide your, your certificate from the training company, of the 35 PDUs that you've accumulated. You need to provide your degree certificate. So, let's say like you got a master's degree or you got a bachelor's degree. So you need to provide them with your degree certificate as well. Because, if you've claimed that on your on your application, you need to provide them with that. They want to verify. So if you don't have your degree certificate with you, this will probably be a good time to dig it out, right? They only need copies of this. They don't need the originals. So you need to provide a degree certificate, and you need to basically provide basically what happens is that when you submit your application, and if you get picked up for an audit, you will be able to log into your dashboard. And what PMI would do is that whatever application you've submitted, whatever work experience you've submitted, PMI will allow you to download the work experience, in the form of a PDF. So it is basically pre-filled out. All the information that you have documented in your application, that would already be filled out in a PDF, and PMI will allow you to download that. And what will happen is that in the PDF document, you will also have a section where you will be able to get a signature from your manager or from whoever is your reference. So someone who has managed you, or someone who has who was working with you when you were working on that project, that person needs to verify, right, by putting their signature in the PDF document, that you actually have done what you're claiming in the application. So that is the reference check that they do. So basically you get the PDF is filled out with all the work experience that you've documented. It will have sections where you will need to enter the name of the person, and it will have an area where you would need to document the signature, like that person would need to sign it and send it to you. So, a lot of my students, what they do is that they print out the PDF, they send it to the person, or maybe they even email it to the person who is going to be the reference check. That person will print it out. Once that person prints it out, he will put his or her signature there, and he will send it across to you. And once you receive it, you will have to put your degree certificate, your reference checks, your certificate from the training company, all of it in one document, and you will have to send it to PMI. Basically, if you just download the handbook, it will give you PMI's address, and you will find the you would just need to send it to PMI. That's what you would need to do when you are going through an audit. Okay, so maybe you might get selected for an audit. It's very difficult to say who gets selected, who does not, but it's highly possible that anyone and everyone can get selected for an audit. So, but let's look at how to pass the PMP audit. Whatever I said, in terms of having your reference checks in place, having your degree certificates in place, having your certificates in place, all of that is necessary to pass the audit. So number one, it says have all the information ready to verify your experience and education. So, just a reiteration of what I've already said. Next, provide the audit materials within 90 days. So you have 90 days within which the audit materials must reach PMI. And let's say for any reason you're not able to send the audit materials within 90 days, you can always reach out to PMI customer support. You can send them an email, or you can call up PMI and you can request for an extension. I'm pretty sure that they will give an extension for a couple of days. But try your level best that as soon as you get word that you've been picked up for an audit, get down to working on it as quickly as possible. So, but just ensure that you finish the audit within 90 days, otherwise your application will get rejected. And like I said, have your supervisors or whoever worked with you. It does not necessarily also have to be like a supervisor. It could be someone who worked with you, was maybe your teammate. They can also validate your application information. Let's talk about some best practices, when it comes to filling out the application. So when you're filling out the application, one of the first things that you should keep in mind is you need to showcase that you have, you led the project, or, you were in a way responsible for, taking charge of the project, right? So use words like initiated, led, consulted, developed, monitored, tested, identified, analyzed, recommended, contributed. Like use words like these. So for example, if you're saying that you wrote the project management plan, so you can say developed a project management plan. Let's say you identified a risk, and then you went on to analyze the risk. So you can go and you can say identified and analyzed the major risks affecting the project and recommended possible risk mitigation tactics or strategies. So ensure that the language that you use comes across as that you actually took some charge on the project, and you led it from the front. Obviously you could have had other project managers on your project. That is fine, but they really want you to express what you did from a leading and a directing perspective on the project. Right. The other thing is, what I showed you when we were filling out the application. Write your experience across the process groups of initiating, planning, monitoring and controlling, executing and closing a project. So write it like that. And another good practice I would say is that before you write it in the actual system, please write it on a Word document. And only after that you submit it or you paste it in the actual PMI website. And we do reviews of applications. So if you are filling out your application, if you're not sure about what you've written, if you need some assistance with what you've written, you will write the application, you will give it to us in a Word document. We are going to review it for you. We are going to make you suggestions, or we may also rewrite the application for you, or maybe at least a few sentences for you, so that your applications comes across as more professional and comes across as more in tune with what PMI is expecting. But the basic idea is that you need to understand the PMI language, the PMI way of expressing information, and you should write your application like that. Let's look at what are some of the things that you should do when you are writing your application. So obviously be truthful about all the projects that you have done. Try to be as truthful as possible, because remember, somebody is also going to back you up. As long as that person can back up whatever you've written, you can write that in your application. But be too truthful, because one of the PMI's code of ethics is honesty, and they expect you to be honest in your application. So don't write things that you've not really done. Understand the PMP processes before filling out the application. So maybe you can just go to the internet and you can just get a basic understanding of the PMP processes of initiating, planning, monitoring and controlling, executing, and closing a project. Or what you can do is, if you have a copy of the PMBOK, there is a section on processes in the PMBOK, right? You can just read through those processes. Just read it once, just get a basic understanding of what you're supposed to document. And the other thing that you can do is that you can read the blog that I shared with you as well, because that explains it in a lot of depth, how you need to fill out your application. And obviously, before you submit your application, if you know that you're going to talk about a particular project, get in touch with your supervisor or your manager of that project and put a word saying that I'm filling out the PMP application. I'm going to need you in case I get picked up for an audit as a reference. So get in touch with that person. Even if that person doesn't work in the same company anymore, like the person may work in another company, it's fine. They just need someone to verify what you've done, right? It does not have to be that the person has to be working in the same company. So contact your supervisor for your reference checks prior to submitting the application, so that you're able to pass the audit. So that pretty much is about how to fill your application. Do you want to ask me anything? Do you have any questions about whatever I've explained? All the different slides that I've taken you through.
No, it's pretty clear. So fine.
Okay. Awesome. Right. So this is primarily the process of filling out the application. If you have any other questions, if you have any doubts, you can always send me an email. I'm just going to write my email here, rohit.g@careersprints.com. We actually review your application. If you get a course from us, so normally the way we work is that if you choose to take a course from us, we will review your application before you actually submit it to PMI. And we will give you all the tips and suggestions and any other recommendations that are necessary to ensure that your application goes through.